great way to run a workplace.
It's a fantastic way to run a workplace. And for those that didn't know, UiPath listed on the New York Stock Exchange, what, about 2 months ago, Anthony?
Yeah, 2 months ago. So some more fun facts about UiPath. Founded in 2005 in a small apartment in Romania. Daniel Dinas is a founder, former Microsoft executive and developer. And they just started out developing automation libraries that were used by other software to automate applications. That evolved over time, and in 2013, the first RPA product called Deskover was released. So that's kind of the core of what we have today, the origins of the product. It's since evolved quite a lot since then, from an RPA product all the way through to a full automation platform for enterprises that you'll get to see today.
Awesome. Okay, let's get underway then. Thank you, Anthony. So for those that have just joined, good morning and welcome to this joint Assurity and UiPath webinar. Thank you for making the time to attend for what we hope will be an interesting and informative session. My name is Brendan Shea and I work with Assurity Consulting, and I will be introducing this topic before handing off to Anthony Seeger, who's here from UiPath and who's filled us in already with some fun facts. A bit of background about me: I'm the head of business optimization and employee growth here at Assurity. And employee growth portfolio is made up of our agile ways of working, high performance coaching, and our training and education suite of services. Our business optimization services fall under 3 broad categories: our lean BA practice, our process design and optimization services, and most relevant to today is our RPA practice. Anthony, do you want to do a quick intro about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Seeger. My official title is a pre-sales technical consultant, but I'd like to get that changed to perhaps the technical guy for UiPath in New Zealand, because I kind of do all of the different technical roles that we have in our organization, covering all of New Zealand as part of that. Been with UiPath for just over 2 years now. Prior to that, I've been working in IT and with automation software for just over 20 years. So I've got a lot of experience in automation and testing and data centers and cloud that I've picked up in my working career.
Awesome, thank you. So as a bit of background to this event, earlier this year, Assurity and UiPath ran a joint customer event in Christchurch. We introduced the concept of RPA to a number of clients down here in Canterbury, talked through a client case study where RPA has been implemented highly successfully. That case study was Vodafone New Zealand, where I led the program. That's when I used to work there. And UiPath gave a demonstration at a high level of how to assess whether a process is feasible for automation. After that session, we had quite a bit of feedback from a number of participants that they would like to be walked through the process of how automation is actually built and a lot more detail around the mechanics of that automation. So the purpose of today is for Anthony to show you how that process actually occurs by showing an end-to-end development process. In terms of housekeeping, I need to explain a couple of things to you though. The first is that this session is being recorded, as we have some people who want to view this but can't make this live session, so just so you're aware of that. The second is we want this session to be interactive. There will be Q&A at the end, but if you have questions, please leave these in the chat and we will monitor these throughout the talk, and we'll jump in and ask Anthony in real time if that makes sense at that moment in time. Lastly, you all know the rules around these meetings. Go on mute would be much appreciated. From a time frame perspective for today, we anticipate that will roughly take an hour. Of that, 45 to 50 minutes will be for Anthony to give a detailed overview of the UiPath capability and the process. Then we'll have 5 to 10 minutes at the end for any Q&A. Anthony will be going into technical detail, so make sure if you don't understand anything to ask questions in the chat. Now, before we start, we just want to ask a couple of quick poll questions before we get underway, which frames our understanding of your capability that's sitting here. So, Kath, if you could please launch the first poll, that would be great. Right, we'll give people about 10 more seconds. Got a few answers popping in now, which is great. Okay, 5 seconds, I think we'll finish it. So what we've got is, I'll end the poll now so you can see. So what we're trying to do is, you can see here, is your relationship with RPA, have a mature program, which is great. So we've got one person who's done that, but most people are in this category of just starting out, have an ambition, and have a plan to start at some point, but interested in discovering. So that's great. What we'll do now is there's one more question we want to share, which is an understanding of the enabler to the process and how we make it all click. So Cass, if you want to share that question, if you could. Any joy, Cass? Okay, technical difficulties with that one. The purpose of the second question was to ask you around your organization's process maturity. And what we had is we had 4 possible answers, which is
sorry, Brendan, did you not see that? It was launched.
I didn't see it.
It was launched. Yeah, we've got the results.
Oh, perfect. Okay, can you read the back because I can't see it, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So yeah, the question was around how would you describe your organization's process maturity? There's one person who said highly mature with process standardization. 10 people said pockets of maturity, but work to be done. That's the majority of the responses that we got. 4 people said poor maturity across the organization. And there were 2 people who said process. What process?
Right, thank you. So what we're seeing there is that Anthony's going to talk you through the mechanics today of how to make automation work. The reality is automation doesn't work unless you've got processes that are mature and they have a high degree of standardization, maturity, and access to data. So this is the key enabler for it. You can have the best automation program in the world, but if your processes aren't fit for it, unfortunately it won't work. But we can talk about that later on. So I'll now pass over to Anthony to walk you through the demo. Just want to point out that at the end of this demo, which should take around 45 to 50 minutes, as I said, we will present you with an opportunity to try this for yourself and use some of the UiPath tools for yourself at no cost. So make sure you stick around to the end. And Anthony, at this point, I will pass over to you.
Oh, thank you, Brendan, and hi everyone again. So like Brendan said, we're going to start out with a little bit of a presentation about the UiPath platform and how it can help our customers become a fully automated enterprise. We'll take a quick look at some global and local case studies in that presentation, and then we'll have a quick overview of the UiPath automation platform at a high level. The majority of the session is going to be live demos. So we're going to take a look under the hood and take you across the different components of the platform, how they can be used and the benefits that they can provide for you along the way. We've only got a short time, so I'm going to go pretty quick, but like Brendan said, if you've got any questions, please speak up or put them into the Q&A section there, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. So let's move on to the next slide here. I'm going to start with the problem that we're going to try and solve, that we're trying to solve with our platform. We're trying to solve a problem that's huge. And if you look at around the globe, there are billions of workers spending billions of hours bogged down doing manual repetitive work. And New Zealand's not exempt from that, right? We see that within our customers, lots of manual repetitive processes that are mundane and tedious. The vast majority of that manual work is typically done by workers sitting in front of the computers like you and I. This type of work often consists of moving data between applications, simply because those applications can't talk to each other. They're legacy apps, they're web apps, they're cloud apps, they're desktop apps. And the only way to do that work is to have someone manually do it. And there's an interesting stat there in the recent growth of applications. So 70% increase in the use of new apps across organizations in the last 4 years. And that only compounds the problem, right? These new applications come in, they don't talk to our on-prem applications, they don't talk to our legacy applications, and we need more and more manual work to get the data between them. That leads to, decline in productivity growth, a loss of efficiency, and it costs businesses money, right? And this is what we've created our platform to help solve. We've created a platform with software that emulates the work that people do in front of their computers. It's what we call our software robots. The robots can see applications on the screen, they can read the text, they can interact with all of those web applications, legacy applications, desktop applications, do exactly the things that you and I can do. Not only that, they can interact with the APIs as well, so they can communicate programmatically with the applications that have programmatic interfaces. We can augment or make our robots smarter by bringing in artificial intelligence and machine learning to help them decide what to do in a business process, make smarter decisions without the need for a human to do that for them. And of course, they can interact with the applications, type text in, read text, click buttons, recognize when an application is on the screen or not, all the things that you and I can do there. What we see with our platform now, it's becoming an integral part of that application stack, becomes the automation layer that joins together all of the applications that we encounter in our day-to-day jobs. Your CRMs, your ERPs, your cloud apps, your SaaS applications, Citrix applications, remote desktop, and many, many more. In fact, there's almost no technology that we can't automate using our computer vision capabilities or out-of-the-box content. So UiPath has a core capability in robotic process automation. That's our heritage, that's where we came from, and that's what the product originally evolved from. But as we deployed robotic process automation into our customers, we found they needed more to help them get the most out of it. They needed capabilities on how to discover what processes are best to automate, tools to mine the backend systems to understand how data flowed through those CRMs or ERPs, tools to capture what people are doing on their desktops to understand how people were working. We provided capabilities to make it easier to scale and deploy the automation, make it easier to create the automation, to broaden the development pool, make it easier to consume some of those tricky technologies like AI. And most critically, a really important part of that is make it seamless and easy for robots and humans to hand off as part of an end-to-end business process. Capabilities we call human in the loop, creating customized applications to allow the business users to trigger automation and see the results, or bring data or information together in a single interface from multiple applications. So if we look at how UiPath is focused on developing a fully automated enterprise platform, we've been focusing on 4 different areas. Assign all the automatable work to robots, provide a robot for every person, democratize the development and make it easier for more people in the organization to create their own automation, and unleashing AI across every facet of work. Make our robots smarter and use AI to discover every possible automation opportunity. You might be wondering what a fully automated enterprise is and the difference to a traditional enterprise. And the key difference is their approach to automation. A fully automated enterprise takes a proactive approach to automation, and a traditional enterprise is typically reactive. A fully automated enterprise is going to think automation first and apply it where it makes the most sense and where they're going to get the greatest impact. A fully automated enterprise will have the right balance between the work people do and the work robots do to get the right balance there. Free the people up for the things that we're good at, the higher value tasks that provide benefit for the organization, and get the robots to do the repetitive and mundane work. So this slide has a few examples of some global customers that have adopted that fully automated enterprise approach and automation first mindset. They see a number of benefits: accelerated growth and operational efficiency, improvement in customer experience, minimized risk, ensuring compliance and operations, and an increase in employee engagement. And to me, that's one of the most critical ones, is your employees are happier not having to do a lot of this repetitive and mundane work. There's a good example there, a global US retailer that needed to pivot and change direction very quickly because of an unexpected global event, and they needed to hire a large number of people. 100,000 hires in 1 month. They used robotic process automation to enable them to do that. There's no way they would have been able to change direction and scale so quickly without the use of RPA, or our automation platform. And that's one of the key benefits you get from our fully automated enterprise platform, is that it's quick to deploy, it's quick to create automation. You can pivot and change direction, adopt new processes very, very quickly without the need to do complicated back-end IT projects to open up APIs or enable applications to talk together. Because all we're doing is replicating what people can do on their desktops using software. I've got a couple of local examples that we don't have on the slide. So for New Zealand, we have foodstuffs, and I'm not sure if anyone saw the Weekend Herald. There's an interesting article there on what foodstuffs have done with their robotic process automation work in their business. They've got 9 robots. They're saving 25,000 hours a year. They've deployed their robots in finance, doing 3 million invoices a year. They're doing billing validations, they're processing bank statements, and they've deployed it out to the wider organization, property, merchandising teams throughout its stores and supply chain and support center as well. So that's a really great local reference that has started small and scaled out and adopted that fully automated enterprise approach. Another local reference is the University of Auckland. So the University of Auckland initially looked at using our platform to gain some productivity and efficiencies and to handle processes that were very high volume and seasonal, things like student transcript requests. They then deployed out into the finance area, into supplier processes, doing compliance checks, their purchase order systems, and have really grown and had a successful deployment of our platform. So much so that they thought, hey, we need to be teaching our students how to use this technology. And they now offer courses to university students based on UiPath on how to use automation. So a real success story there. All of these customer references, including the ones that I've talked about today, are available on our website, uipath.com/customer stories. I don't know if you can see that at the bottom of the slide there. You'll be able to read about these global ones and the local ones that I've talked about today, and many more.
Anthony, before you jump into that, I'll just, from Brendan here from a surety perspective, if you talk about local case studies as well, today, for example, Surety's just launched into production a bot with an agri client in the Central North Island. And what we've done there is, it used to be this customer went out in the field, took orders, onboarded new customers, and that process from onboarding customers into the various different systems and swivel chairing that used to happen has gone from a process that took up to 2 days, now fully automated. It takes between 8 to 10 minutes, and the amount of workload that's happened for those people to do that has reduced drastically. So another local example that's relevant today as we've launched it go live for that client.
Fantastic. Good story. Thank you, Brendan, for sharing that. So I just wanted to bring up the platform now. So we've talked a lot about the problem. We've talked about some customer success stories and the areas that we've focused on. We've divided our platform into some core pillars that represent the different capabilities that help support an enterprise become fully automated. Discovery capabilities to discover the automation opportunities using AI and your people to collect the best ideas to automate. Those capabilities in the build area to quickly build automations from simple to advanced to allow RPA developers, testers, or citizen developers to create automation for your organization. A pillar for managing your automation, and this is critical when you want to start scaling. You need to be able to manage the robotic workforce, you need to be able to manage the processes or work that they're doing, you need to understand the successes, the failures, raise alerts. You need to be able to have governance over the development standards and what your citizen developers and what your automation developers are doing. And we've got a lot of capability that we've added to the platform that you'll see today to help with that. In the run pillar, this is where our robots sit, different robots to work in different scenarios. So an attended robot to work with people to help them in their day-to-day tasks, unattended robots to run in the back office, going ahead and doing that automatable work that we've taken from the people that would normally be done manually. Capabilities to enable the engagement of the business users and the automation, and vice versa, the robots to engage with the business users. And critically, capabilities to measure the performance of the automation in your organization, track the number of hours saved, track the work that the robots have done and the benefit that that's going to give to your business. Of course, all of this platform sits across all of those existing applications that you've got in your organization, not only the current applications, but new applications that will come along that become critical in your business processes. What we're seeing with our customers is they're not just automating existing work with our platform, they're using our platform as an integral part in new processes. They're adopting that automation mindset. When they look at a new business process, they're thinking about, hey, what can we automate here? How can we use automation to make this process efficient right from the start? We're even seeing it used through that engagement capability as a platform to front end all of these applications that our customers have. Make the back-end systems available to front office workers that they otherwise wouldn't get access to through engaging applications from our apps platform, without the need to provide access to open up firewalls, to do complicated training or provide them access to more than you want them to have. So using the platform as a front end for these business applications is becoming more and more common. Okay, so that's enough of the slides and introduction. I think we should get on to some of the demos. So the demos today are focused on these 4 areas for a fully automated enterprise. We're going to look at how you can assign automatable work to robots. We'll look at a robot for every person and some attended automation and different ways of interacting with them. We'll take a quick look at the democratization of development and a product we call Studio X, simplified development environment for business users, and how we can leverage some AI across all facets of work for discovery of processes and making our robots make smarter decisions. So if we have a look at our platform in sort of a pie chart form here on the left-hand side, you can see robots are central to that. And then we have the build, manage, engage, discover capabilities wrapped around with governance and measurement as part of the platform here. When we look at the development or build side of things, we've got a development environment we call Studio that suits the different skill levels within your organization. Studio X for business users, Studio and Studio Pro for automation developers and testers, because testing is a very important part in being able to scale your automation with an organization. You want to be able to test not only your automation is working successfully when there's a change to an application, but you also want to test the business applications that all of your processes are dependent on, whether those are done manually by people or done by automation. And you can leverage our platform to do that. You want to have that visibility, the management, the governance of it, and we use our orchestrator and test management capabilities for that. And we're going to use Action Center to allow the robots and the humans to engage with each other. Of course, we provide a lot of out-of-the-box integrations to really speed up the development, make it fast to get started, pre-built capabilities for the likes of SAP or Salesforce, Office products, and many of the technologies that you're going to encounter in your day-to-day processes. Okay, so let me start. I thought I'd start with just a quick example of how we create some automation. So I'm going to bring up the UiPath Studio application here. I'm just going to do a quick overview of how I might capture a process. The Studio environment, it's a development tool where we can create our automation. It's drag and drop, it's low code. It's built to make it fast to create the automation, but also make it very powerful so you can do the things that you're going to need to do. We add what we call packages in to represent the different types of systems that we want to integrate with. So if we wanted to integrate with SAP, I'd do a search for SAP here, and all of the content that we've got for SAP becomes available. So I can quickly add in pre-built content for the things that I want to do. That content includes activities, and activities represent the kind of interactions that you might want to do with an application. So it might be getting text, it might be typing into a field or something like that. Drag and drop, fill out the properties, and the automation will begin. So that's simply how you would create it from scratch. But we provide a few things to make it fast to create automation. So if I just minimize this here, we've got a recorder that can speed up the creation of it. And I'm just going to quickly capture an automation to show you how it works. So I hit record, and then the UiPath recorder starts identifying all of the applications on your desktop that you might want to interact with. So I've got a banking application I want to interact with. I'll click on it. It identifies the field. It finds some anchors to uniquely identify that field, and then I can type in a value that I want to put in here. So I hit confirm. I want to type into the password. So it's doing all of this in the background. It's identifying the elements, unique ways of finding it. It's making sure that it can identify the elements reliably. Let me put that value in there. Knows this is a password field, so it hides that for me. I might want to click on the login button as part of that. So let's choose a click action. Logs me in. You'll see all of the steps are captured here in the recorder. Now let's interact with our application. I'm going to put a value in here, confirm. Let's put another one in here, 2000. Right. Let's click on that. You can see the other options we've got there for interacting. We'll click accept. Great, pretty simple automation. I'll hit save. And so that recorder has captured all of those steps for me and it's put it in. So I haven't had to drag and drop them. It's done all of that for me. And I could then go in and modify this if required. Let's just fire that and see how it works. I'll go up here and I'll just configure some properties on it to say, let's always close that. And let's always try and open it. So I can tell my robot how I want it to work. I can test this in this development environment as well. So let's run that now. Robot started, let's launch the application. It's going to log in, it's going to type some values, hit the accept button, close the application. Pretty easy. Now I might want to read some text out of this. So let's add a value here to get some text. And let's just bring our application back up again. Where on the screen do I want to get that from? I want to get the text here. Murphy's Law, it doesn't work on my demo. I'll leave that one out. I have another one that should do that. Here. I think maybe that's because I'm sharing my screen that it did that. I'm going to get the text from the transaction number, and then I'm going to display it in a message box. Let's run that one. Great. So that's it. Simple as that to create automation. And it can get a lot more complicated than that. You're going to have to, or you're going to want to make sure that you configure it to check that an application is loaded properly, the things that you do respond correctly. You're going to build some resilience into your automation. But fundamentally, this is how we create them. Once I've created my automation, I'm going to want to start sharing it out to my robots so they can do that work. So I'll click here on publish. And what will happen is that will get published up to our orchestrator platform. So if I just go here and I'll log in. Okay, so I've just logged into our cloud platform. So the UiPath platform is available on-premise or from the cloud. The beauty of using the cloud is you can get up and running straight away, and we take care of all of the upgrades, and you get access to all of the latest features and capabilities. I just brought up the orchestrator component. This is what manages the work that the robots do. It manages the processes that you're going to deploy to those robots. You can monitor the work that they've done. You can see the jobs that they've executed, success and failure and things like that. We can use what we call a queue, which is a transactional based process to have many robots work on the same type of thing. So a good analogy would be, let's say I've got a spreadsheet with 1,000 rows and I want a group of robots to process those rows concurrently. So we could put all of the rows from the Excel spreadsheet into a queue. We can give them a priority, high, medium, or low. That queue could have an SLA, so a deadline that we need things to be done by, and a group of robots can process each one of those transactions concurrently. That process that I created in Studio will have been published up here, and I can then start deploying that out to my robots to do the work. So I've got some processes listed here available for those back office robots to do. Let's find one very similar to what we've seen, demo expense entry. If I want this robot to do the work, I can start the job now manually. Let's kick it off and see how it goes. We can choose how we want that job to run, what credentials we want to log into that back office machine, and what machine we want it to run on. So let's choose my laptop so we can see it working. And Orchestrator takes care of executing the automation on that back office machine. It will log into the machine if it's not logged into, and the robot will start interacting with the application without any human intervention. So as you can see now, the robot's opening up an Excel spreadsheet. It's going to take the values from the spreadsheet. It's going to log into that UI demo app that I showed you before. It's going to capture the results and the transaction number and save them to the spreadsheet. So this is quite a good example of a simple process, swivel chair, where you're taking data from one source and putting it into another. It could be a database, it could be a website, it could be a file as we see today, it could be between applications in your organization. Once that work is done, we can go back to Orchestrator and we can see the output of that job. So we log everything that the robots do. We log the result, we get visibility of what robot it was executed on, how long it took, and we can go right in and see the log information as well. You're going to want to probably schedule this type of work to happen. So you might have a process that needs to run every hour or every day or every week. We've got a scheduler that can do that as well. So if I have a look here, I've got one for SAP sales order processing, and we can schedule it to run every hour. Lots of configuration available there. We can even do advanced configuration and use cron expressions for almost infinite capability around the scheduler. You get to set other things like which user account you want to use, which machine, and those other values that we saw when I showed you a job executing. So why don't we just kick this one off and see that working? I'll hit start here. So in this process, the robot, again, is reading data from an Excel spreadsheet. It's nice for demos to get data from there, and we're going to fire it into the SAP Win GUI. If I wasn't logged into the machine, Orchestrator would log in for me, execute the application, choose the right instance, and it's going to log in with some credentials. So you might be thinking, hey, where is the robot going to get the credentials from? I don't really want to have those in all of my workflows. It's hard to maintain. What if the credentials change? Orchestrator can take care of that. We can specify credentials as an asset, store them securely in our credential vault within Orchestrator or some third-party credential vaults. And at runtime, the robot's going to go and retrieve that credential securely and use it to log into the applications. So this gives you centralized management of those really important things that your robots need to run. You can use assets for other things as well, global values that the robots might need to do the work. So we've entered that sales order into SAP. Robot closes down the application to leave the machine ready to run the next one. If I go back there and have a look at the job, have a quick look at the logs there. They're coming. Here we go. Full audit trail of everything the robot did, and we can log information that's relevant for the work that's done. So here's the new document ID that we've created. This is great for troubleshooting. This is great for auditing. This is great for compliance. Okay, so that's a really good look at how we could assign automatable work to those back office robots. The robots will work 24/7. They don't take coffee breaks. They don't take annual leave. They'll keep going. What if we need to bring a human into the loop? So a robot has some rules defined to it, and one of those rules needs a human to make a decision. How do we get them involved? So I've got a process now. I'll just bring this up so I can show you where I'm playing the role of an IT parts company where we sell laptops to customers, and when the customers want a quote for those parts, so we're a distributor of IT equipment, they'll send us an email requesting a quote for the IT equipment that we want here. We've built a robot that will read all of these emails and generate the quote automatically, because it's quite a time-consuming job. We've defined some rules for the robot to say, if the quote that you generate is more than a competitor's value, let's get a human to approve it. So why don't I go ahead and trigger that? I've got a trigger here, request for quote, have that run on a scheduled job. Let's hit start. Okay, we'll see a little banner pop up as the robot does the work. It's reading the emails. You'll see the emails are now read. It's tried to generate the quote, and hello, we've got a couple that are more than the competitors. What it's gone and done is it's created an action center task. That action center task will allow me as an approver to log in and view information provided by the robot. We typically would email them a link to the action center to allow them to click on it straight away. I did have a sample email, but for some reason it doesn't want to open. I go to Action Center, launch straight off the automation cloud here. And here I have a list of my pending actions for approval. You can see these two that were created a minute ago. I've got some options for filtering them around different categories or priority or the time that they were created. The Action Center task itself is a form type interface. We create these within that studio environment that you saw using what you see is what you get editor. You can add data in from the processes, you can add images, you can have checkboxes, drop-down lists and things like that. What we've done is we've taken the request a company name and items, we've given a quoted amount and what our quote is going to be. I've got an opportunity here to change this. Now, the beauty of Action Center, because it's web-based, you can access this from a mobile device or a tablet, which allows you to do approvals or review or bring a human into the loop regardless of where they are. So let's say, let's go 3, 9, what are we, 11, 12, so we'll make that 3, 9, 12. As a key point here, and one of the awesome capabilities of Orchestrator is it knows that we're waiting for a human to do some approval here. So it's paused that job that I've started. While it's paused, my robot's free to do other work, to work on other automations whilst we're waiting for a human to do something. I'll hit approve. As soon as I approve that process, Orchestrator will now resume the remaining part of that job on the next available robot that can run that automation, just so happens to be my one, and complete the remaining part of the process. Smart enough to know that there's still one other action to complete. So once it's completed this part, it's going to pause it, and I can go in here and approve the remaining parts. So if I get 95113, we'll hit approve. It resumes the next part of that process. Robot does the remaining work for that transaction until it's all completed. So the benefit of this is we can now automate really long-running business processes that have both robots and people involved. We can use this capability to hand off to third-party systems as well if you need something to be completed in those, and when they're complete, they can let us know and we can resume the remaining automatable part of the work. Let's have a quick look at the output from there. So have a nice little automation that'll bring it up for me. Great. Opened on another screen. These are the two quotes that we generated. You can see the time 11:13. We'll just have a quick look at one. We should see the value that I entered, 9513, from the action center. So the robot was able to retrieve that and carry on with the work. Okay. So that was a good look at assigning automatable work to robots, and we had a good look at creating automations, assigning that work to back office bots, managing it, and bringing humans into the loop. One other important part that I mentioned before is being able to test those robots. So I've got a business process that we're all really dependent on, and we've got applications that we're dependent on as well. I want to be able to test those before the robot performs some work against the production systems. I can use my platform for testing as well. And I've got some tests here that test that process that I've just demonstrated. I'll hit OK. We're going to run some special workflows just designed for testing the different parts of our process. I can test that my applications are available, that the networks are available, that the robot can do what we want it to do before that process runs against the business system. If it doesn't work, I'm going to get notified, hey, there's a failure here. And don't worry, that failure was deliberate as part of the demonstration. I can create unit tests, I can create regression tests, I can create functional tests for my business applications. Like I said before, this is really important, not just for making sure that your automation remains reliable and still works when there's changes in your environment, but that your applications are still working reliably, that everyone is dependent on as part of their process. So we've run a few tests on reading the emails, generating the quote, and completing those action center tasks. I can go in here and have a quick look and see what did we test and why did it fail. So it had some issues retrieving the emails, and it wasn't able to get any emails to process. We set it up to take a little screenshot along the way so you can capture the results on the robot if there's a problem. You can also use it to capture what the robot tested, even if it's successful, so you get proof of testing. So I know why this one failed. I've set it up here, so it will only take emails that are unread. I mark that as unread now. And let's have a go at re-executing that test. I'll hit execute now. We're going to rerun that test. We've fixed the problem in our application. Let's just make sure that that runs successfully before we go ahead and carry on with our automation. Happy days. You can also schedule these tests as well, just like you can an RPA process. You can trigger the tests as part of a CI/CD pipeline, so using Jenkins or Azure DevOps. You can integrate with third-party ALM tools like Jira, Azure DevOps, or ServiceNow if you want to manage your testing and those tools, and use UiPath to execute the automated tests. Integration with SAP Soulman as well is quite a popular one. Great. Let's just drop back to the slides there. So that was really a good look now, and we've covered off how you can do your testing and how important that is as well. Let's take a quick look at a robot for every person. So what often happens with organizations, they'll start with that back office type work, those really obvious processes that are manual and repetitive. And then they'll start deploying automation out to users in the business to help them with their day-to-day tasks. And that kind of automation we call attended automation. These other components that we have here play an important part in that. Orchestrated to deploy the automation out to the users, to get the log information, to govern the processes, detect errors and the like. And these capabilities here, the UiPath Assistant and apps to allow interaction. When the users start using the automation, often they start getting ideas around where else you could get benefit from automation. And we use some of our discovery tools called Automation Hub to start capturing those ideas from users in the business. And if the process isn't that mature or not very well documented, you can use a tool called Task Capture to help quickly capture and record that process and create design documents or skeleton workflows that represent the work that would be done manually. We call that capability Task Capture. So let's have a quick look at some of those technologies. So I'm going to launch the UiPath Assistant, install the UiPath software on my desktop here. It gives me the assistant and my system tray and all of the processes that I have assigned to me from Orchestrator based on my folder membership here. So we've got all of these folders that represent the different areas of the business. We've got all these automations from the different folders that are then available to people that have access to them. So we can use role-based access to control who gets what automation. As a user, I can then come in here and say, hey, I've got a job that I do every day and it's quite manual and tedious, and I just want to kick it off on demand. I click on the UiPath Assistant and it launches the automation. The robot will run and it will start automating that process. So this particular one, again, it's taking data from Excel and it's going to enter it into a web-based application. This one we call the RPA challenge because it's a bit of a tricky one to automate. The benefit of attended automation is you interact with the user. So you can ask some questions, you can highlight things, you can get them to maybe log into an application first or make some decisions along the way. It's also useful if you've got a process that's not run very often and is prone to error. You can use the robot to guide them through and do checks along the way. You can also use it as a training tool to teach people how to execute new processes as well. In this instance, we're just asking how fast do you want to execute. So robots can execute pretty quick. This is actually quite slow, must be because I'm sharing my desktop. We can enter data into an application much quicker than a human ever could. You can see there, 70 out of 70 fields correct in 10 seconds. Typically, I'd see that around 3 seconds. I'm happy with it, it's all done. You may have noticed when it executed, the fields moved around. The robot's able to identify a field regardless of where it is. It's got a unique way of identifying the different elements within an application that isn't dependent on screen location or resolution. Okay, in fact, that probably is a good time to talk about computer vision. I was going to show this when I showed the studio demo. We mentioned our computer vision capabilities in one of the first slides around how a robot can see a screen like a human can. We use machine learning or AI to do that. I've got a demo here that is going to run some automation against a screenshot. I'm going to run it straight here from Studio. I'm going to bring up a screenshot of that demo app that we saw before. Not that one. That was the demo that we were doing before. Oh, well, this is a nice recap, isn't it? Just as a refresher.
Anthony, it's Brendan here. Just a time check for you. We've got 10 minutes till Q&A, just so you're making sure you're on track there.
Fantastic. Okay, I really have to fire through then from here. Let's actually run the right one. Run file. Great, so this is a screenshot of our application. So what's happened here is the robot is taking an image of the screen, using a machine learning model to recognize all of the fields and then navigating between them. So I don't know if you saw the mouse move between the different fields, it clicked on the accept button and it was able to read the text from that as well, got that transaction number out. So in case you missed it, I'll run it one more time. This technology is unique in that it enables us to automate anything. So technologies that don't have unique ways of identifying the elements, remote desktop Citrix, VNC, legacy applications, all of those technologies that have been difficult to automate before, we can automate using computer vision. So I thought that was a good one to bring in there. Okay, let's drop back to the assistant. Close that. Okay, so I can run my automations, click on a link, I can create desktop shortcuts for them, I can get data from a website, I can get data from an API, I can run with my desktop applications. What I can also do is launch some of our apps capabilities. So why don't I run this one here? So apps is a web-based technology that allows us to quickly create rich, engaging applications underpinned by automation. We can launch them from the UiPath Assistant, or you can launch them directly from the URL. The beauty of this is it allows you to execute automation from mobile devices or tablets because it's web-based. Caveat there, if you're going to execute from a mobile or a web device, the automation can only run against a back office robot. I'm launching it here on my desktop with a local robot. I can run both back office or front office automation. This represents a call center scenario where we want to collect information from multiple applications and present it back to the users. We're using automation to go off and do that. As I click on the buttons and do things within my application here, I'll hit verify customer, we'll see the automation run as it goes ahead and does what we need to do to collect it. So this kind of thing for a person might take them 30 seconds or 45 seconds. The robot can do it in a fraction of that time. It also allows me to have access to applications that I might not otherwise have access for. It also brings in some of our machine learning capability. We've run the customer data against an AI model and given the agent a likely to churn metric here. We've also given them the ability to execute actions or fulfillment to speed up completing the customer request here. So if I click on this, update date of birth, the automation is going to run to do the fulfillment there. What's cool about that is we've configured it to run in picture-in-picture mode. Picture-in-picture mode is another desktop session on the same machine that I'm running my automation in. The benefit of that is it can run in the background without impacting my main desktop. I can minimize it, I can leave it running, and it will do the automation, and I can carry on finishing up the call or doing what I need to do. This is going to be really good if you've got quite long running attended processes, but you still want people to be able to use their machine at the same time. So I mentioned another use case is just front-ending business applications. They don't have to be complicated apps like that contact center one. They can be very, very simple apps where people just need to ask one or two things, enter some data, and then you can have some automation run in the background to do the fulfillment or do the query or do the request, as you see here, and return the result back. So simple use cases of apps or very, very complicated one. The key here is they're really quick and easy to create in a simple drag and drop designer. Okay, let's drop back here now to the next slide. Democratizing development. Effectively here, we want to broaden the development pool and allow users to create their own automation. I've been using UiPath automation from my assistant, but hey, I want to automate some of my day-to-day tasks. So let's give them their own copy of Studio. That wasn't the one I wanted. Called Studio X. Now, I may not be a developer. I might be technical. I could be good in Excel. I might be able to create a few macros or a few formulas. I think I'm up to creating my own automation. Oh, here it is here. I did have it open. So it might look familiar to what we saw before, except a lot simpler. Down here, all of the different interactions with the different applications that you might want, simplified cards for drag and dropping. Lots of templates and wizards for helping users to do common things that they might want to do. Lots of online tutorials to teach them how to create their own automation. But still all of the governance and control that we get from Orchestrator and applying development best standards here. I can run my automation, but I don't have that debugging capability. The key thing here is any automation I create as a citizen developer can be opened up in our full version of Studio for an automation developer to enhance and to make available for the rest of the organization or to troubleshoot or help. So citizen development really empowers an organization to do more and allow people to automate their own. Let's take a quick look now at unleashing AI across every facet of work. Scientifically identify automation opportunities using task mining and process mining. Task mining is a recorder that runs on the desktop. It captures all of the things that I'm doing in my day-to-day work, and then it uses an AI model to analyze those and find common patterns. It'll give me a flowchart diagram of those processes and allow me to then export that to a process definition document or a skeleton workflow file that I can then use to start automating processes in my organization. Document understanding is a big part of that. I want to be able to process documents at scale within my organization. Documents like invoices, documents like receipts, or other semi-structured documents like purchase orders. Let's use a machine learning model to read those documents. Let's use a machine learning model to know where the fields are in the documents so I don't have to create templates for them. And let's use Action Center and AI Center to allow humans to validate, verify documents, and retrain the machine learning models to allow them to get smarter.
Cool. Anthony, you got 1 minute before we need to wrap it up.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
That's okay. I always spend too long on the first ones. I'll finish this demo off and then we'll wrap it up there. I might steal 1 or 2 more minutes, I'm afraid, because there is one more thing that I think is critical. Here's document understanding. It's found an invoice. It knows it's an invoice. It can handle multiple documents in the same type of PDF. It's going to go and use an AI model to extract all of the data out of that invoice there. Haven't built a template for the invoice. It just knows how to find the fields that I'm interested in. The key is it's retrainable. So if you've got other fields you want to teach it about, it can do that. I get a human to validate we've got all of the data out successfully. I can have a look at all of my table items. Great, we've got all of those. You know, if I had a team of people handling documents and manually typing them into the system, that would take a long time. I extract that data and then I want to use the robot to put it into a business application as part of that. Here we go. We're going to take all of that extracted data from the document and fire it into our ERP or our CRM or whatever we need it to do. So that's a quick example of how we can apply AI to document processing and other things. To wrap it up, I'm going to go back to the cloud platform. I can use AI Center to retrain, update my machine learning models. to train machine learning models to use in my RPA process. While that's loading, I'll click on that one too. UiPath Insights kind of tops it all off. This gives us the visibility or the measurement of the work that our robots are doing, the hours that they're saving, the value that it's returning to the business, the work that the robots are doing, the work that people are doing on their desktops with robots, how we're going against goals, which processor used the most, how we're accelerating our program within an organization. We've got dashboards on the processes, we've got dashboards on the robots, so you can create custom dashboards specific for your own process. Key here, you can schedule the delivery of these dashboards as well to business stakeholders or the people that get the benefit from the automation to let them know how they've been going. AI Center still hasn't loaded, so we'll just leave it there for now. I'll hand it back to Brendan. Sorry I didn't get through everything, but I'd love the opportunity to come back and talk to you again. So please let us know if there's anything else that you're interested in. Over to you, Brendan.
Hey, thank you very much, Anthony. And I hope people can realize that really what's possible is only limited by your imagination. Now, before you go, Anthony, there's a couple of questions that have popped up in the chat. It'd be great to hand back to you. The first question is, what happens if our apps and our software has a version update? How will it affect the bots?
So we're talking like a business application that has a change? Sure, so there are a couple of ways of handling that. The automation itself is quite resilient to how it can identify elements. So if it's just a slight change to a button, but the unique way of finding it hasn't changed.
Anthony seems to have gone quiet. Are you there, Anthony? We seem to have lost him. Okay, so there are a couple of questions. So what he's suggesting, here we go, he's back.
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened then. It completely clicked off. So the automation itself can often cope with smaller changes. If it's a significant change, then sure, someone's going to have to go in and update that automation. We make it quick and easy to update it in Studio. You publish your new version of your automation. You'll run your test cases to make sure that it's still working successfully. And then you just tell the robot to use the new version.
Okay, and how long would that typically take to do that?
Depending on the change, a few minutes to maybe an hour, depending on the complexity of your automation. One of the really cool things that we've added into the product recently is what we call an object repository. So when you identify an element in an application, you just define it once. You put it in this effectively a library of UI elements. And then all of your automations refer to that element in the library. So if it changes, all you have to do is update it in the one place. And then every other workflow that's using the element will use the updated identifier. So that makes it really quick and helps make your automation robust. So you can do an update in a matter of minutes in that case.
Great, thank you. Another question, is it common practice to have one bot per process?
Sometimes that depends on the size of the process and I guess the business criticality. So if you always want that robot to be available on demand for that particular process, then yes. If it's not so critical and it can just be done when the robot gets to it, so maybe overnight or as it's finishing other work, then you can have multiple processes assigned to the same robot. That's the kind of thing that you'd work out when you're doing your process design and your solution design and understanding how you want the automation to work with that process.
Awesome. And one question that's not here, but I have had come through. Why would you choose on-prem or a cloud version of UiPath? So what are the differences between the two and why would the organization make a choice between a cloud or on-prem?
Yeah, okay, well, that's a great question. So on-prem is typically customers want to keep everything in-house. They may not use cloud technologies. They've got a lot of their own infrastructure and IT and traditionally do things on-prem, and that's where we see them going for that. Maybe there's some regulatory compliance issues or things like that with using a cloud provider. The majority of our customers now are adopting to cloud or looking to move to cloud, and that's simply because we take care of everything, the infrastructure, and you take care of just automating what's important to you. So we're seeing a lot of uptake and adoption there. Our cloud instance is available from an Azure data center in Sydney as well. So we've got a within region instance of that. And so that's quite important to customers and the security teams as well.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff. We've got no other questions coming through at this point. So just in summary, thank you everyone for attending today. I hope you found that useful. Myself and Anthony have enjoyed the ability to talk to you. Just from an Assurity perspective, in terms of what we do, the real, as Anthony mentioned, the key is to unlocking the potential is how do we use the discovery process through automation to see what's possible. Assurity's range of services cover all those elements you can see there, both from the end-to-end automation to just the technology bit, where some organizations choose that they manage the process discovery and the process part of it, and we manage the technical deployment. For large organizations, our recommendation is actually that you do set up and manage your own center of excellence. So that becomes important for you because you own your own destiny and you own it. We help establish that. But of course, like all things bots, as Anthony mentioned, need support and life management. So there are instances where software changes, processes might change around you as well. So you just need to keep on top of that as well. So thank you very much for today. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you've got any questions, please come back to me and we'll be happy to answer those. Enjoy your Wednesday and thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brendan and Anthony. It was great.